Hello, everybody. Welcome, Heather. We just saw you on the previous panel, but we're so glad to have you back. We are here today on day 2 of the professional bootcamp, and we're going to be chit-chatting a little bit about networking both in person and online. But before we get started, let's do a few introductions. Let's start with Cheridan, since you're right beside me.
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm Cheridan. It's really great to be here and talk with you all. I'm part of the collegiate organization of the Gamers, and I'm currently a college student. As you can see, I'm streaming from my dorm room right now, but it's really great to be here, and I'm really happy to talk with you all.
Amazing. And we also have Danielle, whose lovely voice you would have just heard on the ad previously. So round of applause for Danielle there.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, Danielle.
Hello. I'm in the Washington, D.C. area, right outside in Alexandria, Virginia. I am the GameHers head of people, so my focus is HR. And then I dabble in voice recording, as you can tell. So if anyone needs someone to read a commercial, I'm available. And so happy to be here.
And we're so happy to have you. And then Heather, you want to give us another update on who you are, what you do, and how you got to do it?
So hi, everyone. I'm Heather Ouida. I'm the president and one of the 4 co-founders here at The Gamers. If you sense that the 4 of us, it's like some sort of reunion happening, it's because it is. We all just got back from PAX and had the best time. And I had this weird moment where I was out with these lovely ladies somewhere at a bar. And Cheridan, who just said she's calling in from a dorm room, I looked at her as we're drinking together and I said, wait, Cheridan, my son is your age. He's at college. Is this what he's doing right now? And she said, probably.
It was a good moment. It was a great bonding moment between the 2 of us.
She's legal, by the way, just so everyone knows.
Yes, I am 21.
Legally drinking,
don't
yes.
worry.
Absolutely.
We follow the law here. Don't worry.
We do.
Yes, we do.
Oh my gosh. And my name is Caroline. I am the producer at the Gamers. I've been with them almost since the beginning, I want to say, but it's been a really, really fun journey. And I am very excited to see where it continues to go. We've met so many incredible people in the industry. We have successfully helped lots of people actually, get into the industry, which is freaking awesome. And we hope to be able to help more people as we do more of these, professional development events and continue with our other projects. So we'll hop kind of right into it. I mean, listen, we're all here, over Restream, just chit-chatting and on Ritual Motion and on Twitch. And it's been, at this point, we're getting really used to it, right? It's like being online with each other in, voice chats and video chats, whether it's Zoom or previously Skype. It's been a bit of a journey. And how are you guys adjusting? Are you ladies adjusting to this whole like online landscape and networking and keeping in touch with everybody online nowadays?
I will say it has been very different, especially coming from a student's perspective, having all of our classes online and just kind of focusing with that, and now moving to work. I just always had this dream of like, when I graduate school, I'm going to go into a job in the real world. And now I'm like, Zoom, which is interesting, but it has its perks. Like, it has its advantages and disadvantages. It has been really easy to meet so many people, especially those from around the world, and just communicate with everyone. But on the downside, it is hard that I'm not able to see everyone front to front and like face to face. Especially like, I'm so thankful for PAX because it brought our team together and I was finally able to see you guys all in person. And I couldn't tell you the joy I felt just after like seeing your guys' faces and just hearing voices. And I'm like, wow, you're an actual person, not a screen that I'm staring at. So I definitely did miss the human interaction. But I will say, like I said, both of them have their advantages and disadvantages, and it hasn't been as bad as I thought it would, kind of working online. I don't know about you guys, but that's how it's been for me.
I think what's really interesting is I've worked with the Gamers for over a year. And this is the first job I've had where I hadn't met any of my coworkers in real life before. So PAX last week was the first time I met and touched, and I did touch these people that you see. And that was very interesting. And I think the other part of my experience is coming to work for the Game Hers was a career shift for me, like a pivot, because I'd been in education for so long. And building a network in the gaming industry has actually, I think, has been easier because we're all at this level playing field of everyone's online. And so being an introvert and truly hating networking, because it's just like I'm not good at it, and I'd rather just be at home with my puppies. But like networking virtually is actually something I'm more comfortable doing, and it was easier. So like Cheridan said, there's pros and cons to it. I definitely, if we were all in the same region, it'd be fantastic to be in an office, maybe just a couple times a week. But in terms of networking, like being forced to network virtually has actually worked for me, because I think I was moving from nonprofit space to, you know, tech startup gaming, and I have to like build a whole new network. This is a whole new space for me.
So it's been an interesting journey with the gamers during this time. So the idea for the gamers, people on the last panel, sorry if you heard this already, came to me in 2019. I had been designing toys in the gaming space for Alcon, who was the visionary behind Pokemon, and I was at a conference, and it just this vision came to me, this company idea, and called up my other co-founders who I knew professionally and personally, and pitched them and said, I can't imagine doing this without you. Come join me. So that was in 2019. We spent a lot of time because we had, a few of us, Laura and I, had started another business together that was women-centered and community-driven. So we were very deliberate in how we were going to bring the company out into the world on a limited budget. And that involved going to lots of networking, in-person networking events, and going to PAX, and kind of getting the word out that way. And I remember, so we launched in March 2nd of 2020. That's when our website went live. And you know, it's scary. We put in our own money to start the company, which is scary. We all quit our jobs, which is scary. And we had this plan on how we were going to get the word out about this company. And 3 weeks later, world shut down. And I thought, are we out of business before we've even started? And had this panic. And again, from the last panel, we were talking about how sometimes you have to pivot, and sometimes things that you feel in the moment are really bad and heavy turn out to be a blessing. So it ended up being, I never want to say it was necessarily a blessing, but we all pivoted, and it ended up being at least I think for our company and the people that all work with us, a time to think about human connection in a different way. And it allowed us to build our business, in my opinion, a more thoughtful way. So, you know, it's been an interesting evolution, and it's been nice to kind of have it been sandwiched in where we started in person. We went right away as soon as we launched. We went online, and again, I the women on this panel I had literally worked with. I mean, Caroline was with us from the beginning, and I mean, through this whole journey, we had never seen each other ever. So, and then to come on the other side and be able to have human connection again physically was really nice. But I think this whole journey, I think, has made, at least me, just a better human and a better in my career.
I love that. And I have to say, like, meeting your coworkers for the first time when you've seen them or haven't seen them other than on a screen in 2 years.
Yeah.
For me, 2 years. Yeah. Hadn't met these people.
Right.
And they're all amazing. It is very nice. Like, it felt really, really good. And so Danielle, you mentioned you're an introvert. I am like textbook extrovert. So for me, like, and I used to go to a lot of conventions, and used to work in an office or go in somewhere to actually like sit down with my laptop and actually like do what I need to do. So being confined to this space, and granted, like, it's still home, it's still nice, but it does start to feel like a bit of a prison at a certain point. And you need to have that kind of change between, which I had not been able to adapt. So eventually, when we were able to go to PAX and all meet up, it was like a light of inspiration for me. And I was able to, kind of get back into this way that I know I was before the world shut down. But let's talk a little bit about conventions, because we finally were able to go back to one. And the first convention I believe that the Gamers were at was actually at a PAX East convention, was it not?
PAX South.
Oh, it was PAX South.
In Austin in January, I think in January 2020. Wow. January, February 2020. Yeah.
Wild. And it feels like so long ago, honestly. Like,
right? Yeah.
Yeah. But conventions are probably one of the best places that I've found to connect with people. And even in an online world, having the ability to meet people in person and see something, there's something very human about that. And I'd just love to know how, like, when we went back to PAX, just from a personal standpoint, what exactly were you expecting and what happened, like when you were connecting with people? I mean, Heather, if you'd like to start on this one too, because like, yeah, you were there. I think you were there for the first bit of it, right?
Right. So it's interesting because I've been reflecting on, now I've been to 3 PAXs. So I went to the first one in Austin, I went to Boston right before we launched, and then we all just got back from Boston. Before the first one, again, we were on such a budget. So Laura and I went out, we were the only 2 people there. And I remember having dinner with her the night before PAX was set to open. We had set up our booth. And it was so scary because we were like, what if we don't make it? What if people don't like us? What if this is the wrong move? What if? And then we got there and it was like this crazy, I mean, you all know, because now you've experienced, but like, it's such a rush being there. It's very hard to explain, but we got to the booth, we put our bag down, we turned around and it was like, whoosh.
It's a whirlwind.
And then we were there for 5 days and I don't think we stopped talking or moving for 5 days, but it's so fun. I always say, so I'm an introvert and I play the part of an extrovert. I think I've learned to play the part of an extrovert because I've had to professionally. I'm a true introvert.
Really?
Surprise.
Never pinned that. Like,
I know. People are really, really surprised.
Really good at
you're
pretending.
You're very good with people. Like, that is.
Yeah. I really feel that, Heather, because like I am too. I learned in college. I was like, oh, this is how you show up. Like, this is the week.
Yes, exactly.
Wild.
So for me, it's I go in and I kind of just go to a different place and I hover here, way up here, the entire time. Like, I can't bring myself up and down. I just go, and I hover. But there's nothing like it. It's such a rush.
Do you get home and like crash and just turtle?
It takes me a while. It takes me a while to bring it down. So one of you said, I think it was you, Caroline, it's hard to turn your synapses off because you've met so many people and so many ideas are coming, and it's not just, I mean, I used to say this in the when I was in the baby world and in the toy world. So went to those conferences, it's not just when you're standing in your booth. I always say sometimes the most meaningful connections happen in the elevator because y'all have your that's one piece of advice. Wear your badge all the time. Wear your badge in the morning, wear your badge in the elevator, wear your badge to dinner that night, because you will then connect with other people. So yeah, it's wild. It's hard to bring it down for me after, for sure.
It's like that electricity, right? Like, just of networking and like meeting people. Cheridan, you were talking to so many people this weekend. Like, How okay,
Thank
so
you.
from this whole online thing, I'm actually very curious to know because, as a student and as a student who is doing a lot of stuff online, students generally a lot of students are very social anyway because you're going into a space that, you're going into a school, which is naturally a hub for communication. So, how did you adapt when you went offline and then came back and then now you're in the middle of a convention working a booth and talking to so many different kinds of people?
I honestly don't know how I did that. This was actually like my first convention. I've never been to any PAXs before, and I didn't know like what I would expect. And for some reason, it was a lot more than what I expected because I was like, oh, first convention out of COVID. I was like, there's going to be a couple of people. I did not expect to be bombarded like that. And like, I guess all of my energy that has been stored up through COVID, just like sitting online, it kind of like flipped a switch and I was ready to go. You guys know I lost my voice on like the second day and I was still going. I was like talking to people, sounding like I was really sick, but I was like, we're here. We're the gamers. Come join us. Like, it was amazing, but I don't know. I guess actually from being on Zoom and like from being a student, it has had me talk more than I normally do in an in-person class because usually they have to like call on us and be like, you have to discuss since like we're not in person. A lot of professors are like, speak more, do more like projects, do more talking, explaining, which just doesn't really happen like my freshman year of college compared to my COVID years of college. Um, but I actually feel like that prepared me well for talking in person, all of those projects over and over again that I had to do, and honestly, I thank them for that because it was an insane, insane time, but it was something I will always remember. Like, people talk about core memories, PAX is definitely gonna be a core memory for me, and I wanna thank you guys because I had beautiful role models. I was watching you guys all go and talk, and I'm like, "Heck yes, I can do this. I wanna be just like them," and you guys honestly did it for me. I was loving it.
It
It
was
was amazing.
incredible.
Yeah, it really
Sheridan,
was.
Such a great
Sheridan,
event.
newsflash, you didn't need us. You rocked it.
No,
Mind blown.
Thank you. I really
I was
appreciate
waiting
that.
for Sheridan to collapse, honestly, from the energy. I was just
Right.
like, this is amazing. Are
Yeah.
you okay?
Sheridan and Sam are the team. In
Yes.
case if you haven't met Sheridan and Sam from our team, uh do it because these ladies will not stop. They're the best.
Thank you. I
I,
really appreciate
I
that.
just
and
wanted
they'll
to
keep
add.
running.
Oh,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
Well, I just wanted to add, I felt like the convention scene after COVID, and I've never been to a PAX before, but I've been to a lot of like industry conventions. And I remember before my mom would say, all right, Danielle, like you have to meet at least one person a day. You can do it. And I'm like, okay. And I remember calling her and be like, I made a friend today at this the human resources convention. Like I made a friend. PAX though was very different. People really wanted to meet people. And yes, Heather, I talked to someone in the elevator and we walked 2 PAX together and he told me his life story. I mean, people really just wanted to connect in person. And that was really refreshing. And I like, even though giant groups of people, like I get worn down being an introvert, but like the one-on-one things I can like, that's my jam. And so that was really great to meet people in elevators, meet people outside of the booth, meet people like getting coffee. They ask you, making those little connections. That was really nice. And I did need that to feel like, yeah, like I can also exist in this space, because I think the other thing with working virtually your entire like time is like that imposter syndrome. Like I've actually never met anyone. Can I do this?
Right.
Am I a gamer? Like I just
Right.
pretend, so it was really fulfilling for me to be in real life.
Carolyn, can I embarrass everyone and the three of you and share what I learned from each of you at PAX as a way to share maybe takeaways for people out there?
Oh my gosh, yeah. All right.
Ready to be embarrassed? So because this is I do think you're like, stop. I do think that there are unique opportunities at networking events, whether it's a small networking event that's in your local area or at a big one. But there's themes I think that are helpful because it can be overwhelming and it's a shame to have missed opportunities. So, okay, let me go around. So Danielle, I learned the art of being ultra organized because you only have one chance to make a first impression. So whether you have the booth, or I also watched how she showed up at other spaces and booths. It, I think, is really important because you're either representing a company and the brand, or you are your own brand. So I think that's really important. And I think always thinking about like, what's the user experience? Again, whether it's the booth or you're going to other booths, but like Danielle made sure we had candies and like little stuff. All the bowls were exactly the same size and shape. So our booth always looked polished and put together and inviting. And she set it up in a way. I mean, everyone, I didn't come. I think Cheridan was there. Caroline was there early, but set up in a way so that we utilized all foot traffic. Even when people weren't stopping, they were stopping because of the flow and the feel. And Danielle organized all the postcards and made it like, okay, if someone's coming to a booth, you basically have, or if you're going to a booth, you have less than 20 seconds, right? It's so many people. So what's my message? What's my call to action? Right? It's not enough just to meet someone, right? Like, what do I want them to do now after our interaction? So for us, Danielle had barcodes, so it was super easy. People were walking by with their phones, boom, part of Bootcamp, boom, part of our app. So I learned the art of being organized from Danielle and how to show up in the world. Caroline came with a list in her head of every person that she had been connecting with or knew professionally, personally, that was there, who she knew she wanted to connect with in person. So she was constantly in her head, okay, I saw this person, I have to go to this networking thing, I have to leave here, I want to connect with this person. Really the true art of networking, really, that's how it's done. So I think that for anyone out there, that's key. Either write it down. Caroline did it all in her head because she's like that. She can do that.
It's the only thing I don't have to write down.
I knew. I mean, I could tell you.
I don't.
You
people.
Yeah.
For some reason, I remember people. But also the people who are there are very memorable. So
really good point.
You know.
Yes.
Great point. And Cheridan, I learned that even when I think it's not, like, I call it a conversion, like, right. Even when I think someone, I'm like, oh, they're not interested. They're walking right by us. Like, okay, like, that's Cheridan. Every person was an opportunity. Cheridan did not let a single person get by that booth without at least trying to start a conversation. And most people were thrilled. It's just there, you forget there are so many people and so much for the attendees to take in that that you forget. Sometimes it just takes a little nudge, like, come have a piece of candy. Where are you from? And so she did that like 4 or 5 days straight, which is why she lost her voice. And I think, again, these are all kind of skills and tidbits that don't just have to be in a booth. It's all stuff that you can take out as you're walking around the floor and making connections. So anyway, thank you. Really, I learned so much from you all.
I think there's 4 very good points then, So, and this is in any kind of networking, online or, in person. Number 1, be organized. Know what you got to do. Know what you have to try to achieve. Look at your goals and have a plan on how you're going to achieve them. And review at the end of each day to make sure that you are actually achieving those goals. And if you're not, what can you do to do better? Or are your goals needed to be changed a little bit to make sure that they're actually in line with what you can accomplish? Number 2 is be interested in people. Go to see people, want to reconnect with people. Don't be shy. I am not a shy person. Anyone who knows me and who's met me in person will know that I am absolutely not shy at all. And even like I still have issues sometimes approaching people for the first time. But people like to talk about themselves.
Mm.
And people want to know what they can do to connect more, especially after basically 2 years of not being able to do much. And from Cheridan, we learned everybody has something
Mhm.
and everybody has potential
Yeah.
to be either, from a business sense, a conversion
Mhm.
or a new friend or simply a pathway to meet somebody new.
Mhm.
Everybody has something that they connect with. So find what they can connect with, even if it's just a little bit of an icebreaker, like with a piece of candy. And then from Heather, definitely recharge.
Mhm.
Make sure that you're able to work at your most optimal level to bring your A game to every time that you are actually interacting with someone, and then allow yourself the break and allow yourself to go back home and decompress and do it all over again. So that's really great. I think there's some really good insight there. Let's talk a little bit about events, because at this point, a lot of the stuff that we've seen has been online events, whether it's tournaments or networking events, or it could just be, mixers or, different ways to kind of get to know people and various networking sessions. Uh, but now that we bring them back to in person, it's going to be a really interesting thing to see how we do both, because now people want to do both. People want to have both the in-person and online interactions. So, my question is, how do you see an event that is going to utilize both in-person and online capabilities? How do you see that thriving? And what advice could you give to someone who is setting up an event like this to really make their event work well?
Caroline, you mean an event that's both online and in person?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because
I
those are
think
really tough, right? Like now people are trying to expand because there's people who are going to stay home, right?
Mhm.
Or who can't go out, right? So,
I honestly think it's a really good idea to have both in-person and online events at the same time because, like you said, people are still going to stay home. And also, just depending on where the tournaments are, traveling could be an issue for some people. So it's really great to get that crowd in person just to feel the energy, but also allow fans from all over the world to come watch, stream in, and so the main advice that I would give to someone who's trying to make some of these organizations is just make sure you're catering to everyone. Think of different time zones, different areas, people who are across the world. If you're going to do this on the East Coast, think of people on the West Coast that maybe can't fly out, but also cater to in person. Make sure the event's set up well. You have a great audience. Whoever's going to speak is there. Whoever's going to participate in the tournaments. You guys all have that set up, and just don't forget about one or the other. Because I have seen some events where the in person gets really like the energy is at the peak. Everyone's like really ecstatic, and then there's people online who are like, "Oh wait, can you switch to this angle?" Or kind of like doing comments, and you kind of see like they're feeling left out. So it's just kind of you have to find the good middle ground to toggle in between both to make sure that no one gets left out, but you also create a community where anyone and everyone can get involved.
Yeah, I would just to that point, I think it's important that if you have both happening at the same time, you're not just restreaming the live event, you're doing something extra for that virtual audience. And so like I think of our the Game Heroes Awards has been virtual for so long because we've had to. But if we were to go in person, we'd always want to have that virtual component because we have Game Hers around the world. But what can we do to make our Game Hers in other time zones and on other continents included? And I think there's now, because of COVID, we have access to all of these technologies. Like we can do giveaways virtually. Like there's something for our virtual audience that's special that won't make them feel left out. Because I think Sheridan's point is excellent. Like you can't just cater to one group. You have to do both. But it doesn't have to be the same experience for both. It's a different experience, and just lean into that.
Couldn't agree more. I think two of the things we're known for here at the Gamers are user experience and asking our community, not making assumptions. So I think leaning into both of those when planning the nuances of an event that's virtual and live is critical. So as everyone on this panel has said, thinking about from start to finish, not just like in a gestalt, what's the experience? Are we catering to everyone? But like the gestalt, like, okay. And everyone on my team is rolling their eyes because I am like crazy about this. And I live in this space, so I love it. And that's like actually go through from start to finish the user experience. Okay, so if they're online, how are they getting an email? Is there a link? Is it 1 click away? Is it 2 clicks away? How do they do this? What do they do after? What's the exact user experience for the online people? Same with in-person events. I mean, in the last business I ran, it was mostly in-person events for moms. So thinking like, I mean, if you can think ahead and assume every like worst case scenario and plan ahead, to me, that's how the best events, in-person events and online events are planned. So even if it's ridiculous, like think about what could go wrong. I mean, we used to think, and we were known in Manhattan. So these are really opinionated moms. We were known for our events because we thought of how many high chairs did the restaurant have? Do we have enough high chairs for every single baby? If not, we have to communicate that in advance. And if we don't, we better make sure that we used to give extra prizes to every mom that came with their child in a baby Bjorn, so that we made sure that like how do you envision everything? If you are a space if you are an event that's mostly women, make half the men's rooms into co-ed or like for everyone, so you're not monopolizing certain bathrooms. So I just think it's that to me is the key to any event, whether it's in person or online. Think ahead, assume every worst case scenario and be pleasantly surprised and ready and equipped.
Yeah, I really love, especially the contingency plans. I think with virtual events, we see how, I mean, even the most fanciest, like CNN still has problems streaming. Like, and so whenever I see like a CNN stream go down, I'm just like, if they can't do it, no one can do it perfectly. And so just having like your screens ready, like what happens if the audio doesn't work or someone doesn't show up? And just make sure that the audience knows like everything's under control. That's something that I've always taken from events. Like even when things are on fire, project calm.
Mm-hmm.
We're all good. Like, yes, the cookies, they're poisonous. Just don't eat them. Just give them to me. Like, it's totally fine.
Wait, Danielle, that is so true about you. Sometimes I text Danielle like very early in the morning. I'm like, I need a little Danielle therapy. Just talk me off the ledge right now. You are.
Yeah, it's fine. We got this.
I think I never really understood the full weight of the phrase "the show must go on" until I want to say fairly recently, like since I've become a producer, is like literally just the show must go on.
Mm-hmm.
It must happen. There are, and not just like it will go on like whatever, it has to go on and it will go on well because we've planned for it.
Yeah.
So that is like a really big thing, is like, yeah, plan for it. Make sure that if things go wrong, you know exactly what to do. Have your contingency plans and, execute them if needed. That's it.
That's right.
We probably have time for like one more question that we can kind of talk about. And I'd really like to get a little bit of your insights on online networking, since that has been so key nowadays. From your personal and professional spheres, what do you do to grow your contacts? Like, where do you go? How do you interact with people? Are there things you absolutely do not do or do?
So, and I very much, I'm glad we have 2 introverts and 2 extroverts on this panel, actually, because I think our answers will be different and help everyone. So I actually thrive and love online networking. It's totally my jam. I love an email. I love a DM. I love that. So for me, I lean into that very much. It's for me to have a call or to meet someone for coffee. Again, I'll do it because I've learned to, and I put my career first. It's again, for an introvert. All introverts out there know this. I have to psych myself, like that's draining for me. So I've had to really, I think, lean into and try to grow the craft of forging really meaningful connections with online or text. So I've tried to do it in a few ways, and this is a work in progress for me. But when I meet someone, if I'm on a panel with other people, I follow up with a one-on-one email. Always. And not just, hey, I try to say, hey, it was really nice meeting you. I really liked when you said this. And then some sort of call to action to keep our relationship going. I think you're in New York for a conference this summer. Like, let's meet up for coffee. So being very kind of clear. If I meet someone in where there's lots of people on a panel and they probably don't remember me, I may say, we met here and I was the one that asked this question. Just like a little bit of a connection, and then always a call to action. Like, okay, so what do I want to have happen from this, right? Do I just want to like let them know I'm here? Do I want to be LinkedIn friends? Do I want to ask them if they could introduce me to someone? And I've also learned not to say, like, really, I've learned not to put the onus on the other person. So it's a lot of work for another person for me to email and say, hey, we met on, online, we met through LinkedIn. I'd love if you helped spread the word, or now we're like doing another series of fundraising. I'd love if you, introduced us to any investors who may be interested. That's like a lot of work on the person. So I always do permission marketing. Would you mind if I sent you like just a few sentences about us with our ask, so you could just cut and paste it? Like, and I never, ever do that without asking permission first. So those are just a few ways that for me, I've kind of navigated this. It's hard.
For me, I am very similar to Heather. I like the virtual space better because I can make connections. And what I always do is, number one, send a thank you. You'll be surprised how many people don't send thank yous. And you may think, oh, they get lots of thank yous. They really don't. I'm a recruiter. I actually don't get that many thank yous. And then the second thing I do is, in my thank you, I try to reference something specific they said. So it's like, oh, remember how you mentioned a book I'm also reading, or how we both love chocolate, or we're both from DC, or blah, blah, blah. Like, I try to bring in something to make them remember me and remember that, like, we do have a connection. Because I think like starting a relationship with like a similar interest is really helpful and nice. And so it's like, yeah, we both have Boston Terriers that are crazy. Yeah, like, let's talk about that. So that's what I do to build my network and stay connected to people.
First off, I want to thank Caroline for asking this question, because me myself, I'm still trying to figure this out. So hearing you guys talk has just been really helpful, and I've been keeping a little bit of a mental note. Thank you for both of your answers. The emails and thank yous are really smart, and I will continue to try to input those whenever I'm doing my outreach. For me, I honestly, this isn't a shocker, but I prefer in-person interactions and networking as well, because I feel like I can get to know someone better talking to them face to face, because I text very differently than how I talk in person. And so I feel like that can come across different while I'm networking. Like, it is very easy, and I met all of you guys through virtual networking, which I'm very thankful about. But meeting you all in person, I'm like, I don't know, it was just something different. And for me, I feel like I can form a more personal bond through in-person networking, but at the same time, it's just virtual networking also works wonders. Although I haven't done much networking yet, I'm still getting my name out there. I'm still trying. So I really appreciate you guys talking about this, and it's honestly helping me so much.
Oh my God, of course. We are coming up on the end of our time, but I'll quickly add my 2 cents, because I'm the same. I'm very much a want to meet people in person. There's something about being able to see someone's face and like just see them in person. There's a dynamic there that I don't get over text or digitally. But being a content creator in the space as well, previously I was able to talk to a lot of people and like meet them through Twitch and whatnot. So having my name, like your handle, show up places, remaining top of mind is one of the things that like I try very much to do. Is like, well, what is going to help me be memorable to them too? Because they're going to remember me for something and I want to remember them. So what part of that interaction are we going to be able to connect on, but also what can we come back and then build on from that relationship? So yeah. Thank you, all three of you, for being here. I very much appreciate it.